So, HackeRPG. It's been 6 months since the last video where I talked about this game, and no, I haven't abandoned it. I'm still working on it. Initially, I had the idea to talk about what I've managed to accomplish over these 6 months, just some updates, but I decided that it would be better to simply describe the current state of the project, how I envision it moving forward, and what's happening right now. Overall, one of the most important things that I have done while working on this project is implementing a proper and comprehensive tutorial. So initially it was just a small piece of documentation, basically a page with a bunch of plain text that was quite hard to read. It's still there and it can be useful once you more or less understand what's going on and just want to look something up. But now there's a full-fledged tutorial that guides you through all possible steps, teaching you how to write some simple scripts for the game. Overall, it looks quite convenient. Next, I worked on the game's soundtrack. Now, when you play the game, the soundtrack is generated procedurally. Because of this, I hope it won't become as annoying as just having a set of pre-recorded tracks. That's it. And in addition to this, the game also now has localization for 5 languages. So there's Russian, there's English. I think the others might not be of much interest, but I even implemented support for Chinese. Maybe it will resonate with someone. Additionally, the game currently features 3 types of weapons and 3 types of skills, which is a small content pack that I considered essential for the alpha version. Subsequently, of course, I plan to add more, although, well, I won't get ahead of myself anyway. The game currently only has an arena mode where you need to survive 10 rounds. In each subsequent round, some new types of enemies spawn, which you need to adapt to by writing some code that will specifically combat them and adjust your playstyle. And the talent tree will help with that, allowing you to customize, for example, the initial weapons, initial skills, and some attributes to fit certain playstyles. So I hope it will be interesting to discuss and see. Apart from that, I conducted a small experiment with integrating a chatbot. I launched a stream on the English channel of the game, and people were playing the game from the chat. They were simply entering commands, and in this way, no one managed to complete it. Honestly, not many people played. It looked pretty cool, especially when several people were playing at the same time, interfering with each other and having conflicts. What I wanted to say about the project overall, it's been a pretty interesting experience. I've never done anything like this before, for so long, into which I have put so much effort and soul, meaning I've essentially been working on this for a year now. And yes, I've had jobs where I worked for quite a long time and all that, but this is my own project which hasn't brought me a single penny yet. So it's interesting that I've been able to spend so much time on it and dive so deeply into it purely on my own initiative. Overall, I really got attached to this, although occasionally, of course, I did feel a strong aversion. But indie game development is very well known for these kinds of ups and downs, related to the fact that people's motivation periodically fades, even though most indie game developers don't actually finish any game at all, although I wouldn't say that my game is in any way finished at this point, because it's still just an alpha build. And returning to the idea of the game, in the past, when I was actively involved with TikTok, I was popularizing and promoting an app that was supposed to be a platform specifically for learning programming. But in the end, I gave up on that idea because I realized it required a lot of effort. I would have to invest heavily emotionally, financially, and time-wise. I understood that I just couldn't handle the project, and I didn't like it that much anyway. But it so happened that this project essentially became a conceptual continuation, because it is also an application that helps to learn programming, but in a much more game-like format. I still view it more as an entertainment game, although I am sure it also serves as a learning tool. But because of this, actually because of the very narrow focus on programming and all that, of course it's very difficult to find a community of people who... Any broad community, so I mean, if I were making some kind of sandbox survival game with crafting and an open world, way more people would... Oh, and with co-op, of course. A lot more people would want to play this, but I'm interested in making it, although I might explore other genres in the future. For now, I'm focused on this project. And despite the fact that this is a very niche story, people do occasionally show interest in it, and that is really encouraging. Negative comments are always easy to come by, no matter what you're doing, but when some people are genuinely excited, look at your idea and say, wow, I want to play this. It's really cool. It makes you want to keep going. It's really nice. It somehow gives me the strength to keep working on it. Somehow. Actually, besides some words of support, I see interest in the game in the numbers, despite the fact that I haven't managed to gather any social media community yet, and I don't actively maintain them, so it makes sense. Nevertheless, I already have 570 wishlists on Steam, and I believe that this is quite a large number for such a niche, especially for a first project in this field. And now I want to address the topic of the release. Initially, the game's release was supposed to be on July 8th. That was the planned date, and I expected to get everything done in time. Spoiler alert, I didn't make it. And so I found myself at the point where today is already July 8th, and my build isn't ready. There were still some bugs that needed fixing. I was almost ready to release it with those bugs, but either way, Steam reviews the game for 3 to 5 business days, and I started thinking about what to do next. I wrote to support, and they explained to me that I initially wanted to postpone the game by just a couple of weeks, but they told me that we can only postpone the release one more time to prevent people from abusing it. And I understand who this boss might have been, because during the 2 weeks before the release I received about 100 new wish lists. So it seems that Steam actively promotes games that are about to be released. That's it. And I was offered to postpone it much later so that I would have time to upload the build, have it reviewed, and then I could change the date to whatever I want. I thought it was a great idea and agreed to postpone it to September 15th. And only now do I essentially have a ready build that I am going to send for review, and then I will set the release date for 2 weeks. After I have a reviewed and approved build, because taking advantage of free marketing from Steam, which will bring me another 100 units of substance, would be foolish not to do. But nevertheless, despite having more time, the build is still in alpha. Meaning it's not the release version, there's not much content in the game, and bugs may also be present. I just want to see people's reactions. I mean, I don't see the point in filling the game with content, a lot of content, if the mechanics themselves don't resonate with people and just don't find a response. That would be very strange. So, and I want to focus now, or rather I am already doing this, I am focusing on adding co-op mode, because I think it will be really interesting to play PvP, to go through this arena in co-op, and some other modes that I don't want to spoil yet. I'm just planning in the next patch, which I better not schedule, which will come out someday, to add PvP mode and see how people will write code against each other, and in general use this code to fight. So, these are my plans for the near future, and I will see what kind of response the game gets. In any case, I plan to bring it to a certain level. I have several ideas for other projects that I would like to implement in the future, but it's better not to rush here, because making some rough drafts just to switch to something else later, well, I think that's a bad idea. That's it. In the future, I would also like to hire a team to help me with these tasks, but honestly, I'll talk another time about the nightmare of finding qualified people. I mean, I'm not even talking about working for free for the idea, but actually for money. Alright, I'll get back to that later. Anyway, from now on, I plan to make videos in this conversational format and much more frequently, just to keep you updated on what's happening with the project, and in general to share some interesting stories. Because dealing with editing with some footage can be quite a hassle, and I'm really too lazy to sit and edit all of it for a long time, so it's better to do it more often, but in a more raw format. Thanks for watching, see you next time.